Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Cancer for January 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog. If you would love to study astrology with me, check out my astrology apprenticeship program that is enrolling in January, and my other courses. So what's going on in this new month, in this new year? We're walking right into the new year in the energy of retrograde, which can make out for a very sleepy start. So don't get too hard on yourself if your New Year's resolutions are not being pushed for as enthusiastically as you had hoped. There's a little bit of energy to push through before you can start to really feel like it's a new year, you know? So it's a great time to clear out and prepare for the new, and I would never discourage you from setting your resolutions and taking forward action on them, but I just want to let you know that the tides are still coming in a little bit, you know? So if you feel that, then see if you want to sync up with it, because when they start going out a little bit more, it's going to be easier for you to push the energy out. So I'm going to talk about that way more, how we're standing on the edge of this abyss of retrogrades. I'm going to talk about that in the general transit report here later. But first I want to talk about some things specific for Cancer. I'm calling the theme of this month for Cancer fulfilling relationships, because there is strong focus in your 7th house. Now, you early degree placements, so birthdays in the first 10 days, or if you're watching for your rising sign like 0 to 9 degrees, you always feel these transits first because they get to a new house for you before they get to a new house for the rest of you. But the themes that I'm discussing for you are relevant for all early, middle, and late degree placements, because they'll be coming, you know, staggered in over the next couple of weeks. So a couple of weeks after the start of the new year, that is. Okay, so when there's focus in the 7th house has to do with relationships. They're one-on-one relationships. It's how we relate to other people. This is also called the house of open enemies. So the house of open enemies, the 7th house is the house of open enemies. Open enemies are people that are opposing you in some way, and you know it and they know it. They're out in the open. They're not hidden enemies. That comes through a different house. So an open enemy is another energetic manifestation of potentials when there is a focus in the 7th house. You know, I'm an optimist, and I really like to focus on the positive energies that the positive end of the spectrum of potentials. But if there's something on the other end, I'm going to mention it too, so that you're aware of it, you know, because in this world entrenched in duality, there's a spectrum of experience that these manifestations can come in on. And so the lower vibration of this focus in the 7th house, the higher vibration is cooperation, win-wins, you know, good partnerships, pairing together in synergistic ways. And the lower vibration is somebody's messing with you and aggravating you, and you're having an argument or some sort of fight with them. So I have made an affirmation for this particular energy. I love affirmations. I've been using them for many years, and I have seen over time all the affirmations I used regularly have become my life. So they really, really work to imprint your subconscious mind. We're always being imprinted with things from outside of us, and most of those things are not things that we really want to participate in, unfortunately. So we can take an active role in our destiny by using affirmations to imprint our subconscious mind to create goals that we are moving towards. So for you this month, all of you, I wrote the affirmation, I draw to myself meaningful, deep, and fulfilling relationships. It's very simple, but it's very profound. And you can get a pretty version of this affirmation and other ones on my Instagram account. They'll be uploading over the weeks after I upload this. So more about these open enemies, you know, sometimes, especially if you are someone who is okay with fighting with someone else, Cancer energy by nature is more inclined to back away from a fight. But a sun sign is such a minuscule part of someone's personality. So there are many people, and I can think of one in particular, one of my very close friends, who has a sun sign in Cancer, and she has a Sag rising, and she does not back down from a fight, you know, which is atypical of Cancer energy, but we have so much more that is. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to make the assumption that just because you're a Cancer that you won't fight back, or that you won't even pick a fight, because we can't make an assumption like that. But I can say that Cancer energy in general tends to avoid conflict. And if you find that you're avoiding conflict, then it's possible that passive aggressive energy is coming up on your end. It's possible that someone is taking advantage of you and you need to set your foot down. There are any number of ways this can manifest, but this is one of the possibilities of this focus. So your goal as a spiritual person trying to evolve onto a higher level is to find a win-win from this situation, okay? And it may not be easy with what you're working with, and if your ego gets flared up, it might not be easy. So I will give you an example of, I had some energy in this house in my chart. And I had a neighbor who liked to have their lawn very manicured. They use chemicals. They don't like what they call weeds, which I call wildflowers, seeds flying across the streets onto their lawn, etc. And my family has a project where we're creating habitat and trying to use less water and use Florida-friendly plants to, create this haven for pollinators and creatures, right? So we were sort of at this standoff where she wanted me to cut down all the flowers that she calls weeds, and I, the Aries part of me wanted to just say the F word, right? And refuse. But I found another way. The other way was doing research, finding an expert who could teach me about the pollinators and help me find plants that the pollinators would like just as much as the ones that didn't look as manicured, so that I could attract pollinators and make my neighbor happy as well. And so this is an example of what you're trying to do here. You know what I'm saying? You could be in this standoff and just be more divisive, or you could see the other person's side of the story, and try to be sensitive to that. And in a case where someone is not hearing your side of the story, which could be equally as prevalent here, then you are not afraid to make your side of the story known. So this is some of the energy that's going on for Cancer energy. Much of the middle and late degree placements still also have strong energy in the 6th house. And the 6th house has to do with creating efficiency and coherence in every area of life, which is this affirmation that I made for you. So I create efficiency and coherence in every area of my life. This is the mission when you have these planets move through. And it's kind of fun that around this time of year this is happening, because it really goes along with starting the new year off, even if it's a couple of weeks late, like it takes a little while for you to get into it, with a new system, with being more organized, with feeling like you have things managed. So your middle and late degree placements, you have an additional focus still in that 6th house, which is also the house of health. So there might be some other health things, some enlightened pieces of information coming through. The sun, when it moves through there, brings enlightenment and information. It brightens things up, kind of can show you what you're working with. So these are some short-term things that are going on for Cancer placements. We also have long-term energies that we're looking at. These personal planets, these ones that move quicker, they dance through a house or a field of experience. They're called houses, right? And then they just dance right out. It's like weeks that they light up a certain area and then they're on to something else. But there are long-term planets that are really focused in an area for a really long time. So there has been a group of planets. Chiron is an asteroid. It's not exactly a planet. Astrologers call everything planets. Chiron, which is the wounded healer, it brings up deep woundedness. Neptune, which is the spiritualizer, it brings, it raises experiences, octaves. It takes them from lower level and brings them up more to the divine, highest expression version. And then the South Node has to do with karma and things that you've got to get through. in order to get to where you want to be. That stuff, those patterns, the stodginess, the things that just keep coming back, that is all about the South Node. But it also has gifts in it, how you can use these gifts to propel yourself into your highest expression. So for early degree placements, you've got emphasis in the 10th house for this stellium of planets, which is a group of planets. Some of it is in the 10th house, which has to do with career, work, and life purpose, like how you walk in the world. What are you doing here? Are you doing it the right way? Are you being pressured by other people, authority figures, parents, mostly father, because the 10th house has to do with father, to have you do something a certain way. This could come from like the law or the government or something like that, but it can also be actually a father influence. So what kind of woundedness do you have from your past that is stopping you from walking in the world the way you want to? There's also this disconnectedness, this issue of connectivity or disconnectedness to spirit, because the 9th house is very strongly aspected for the early placements with these long-term transits. And this has to do with your connection to the divine, your belief in whatever it is that you believe in, your connection to whatever it is that you believe in. And so there could be some soul searching, deep soul searching that has been going on with these placements, like really questioning what you believe and really trying to find a system of belief that resonates with who you really are. So the middle degree placements have that similar energy, but the late degree placements, really, there's still this woundedness in the 8th house. And the 8th house has to do with deeply relating to people. Okay, so we talked about the shorter term planets focusing on this relationships to people. Now we're talking about these long-term transits going through this other house of partnership, which is the 8th house, and how you relate to people. And ultimately what this house very often comes down to is forgiveness. And I can tell you from working with thousands of people individually that the degree to which you have forgiven yourself and others is the degree to which you can manifest your highest expression in this experience, period. If you have debt, energetically, that's spirit saying you are keeping someone on the hook and not letting them free, thinking they owe you something. If you think someone owes you something, someone else is going to be tapping you on the shoulder saying you owe them something as a holographic reflection of what you're doing that's blocking you. Spirit is forever speaking to us in our experiences and our reflections to tell us where we're going awry. So things that we get frustrated about that we want to blame for is really spirit saying, hey, I'm just showing you what you're doing in another area of your life so that you can stop doing that, so that you can clear out all this spectrum of experience of challenge in this arena. So these are things that are specific for Cancer. We are standing on the edge of this abyss of retrogrades, and I want to go into more details about what this series of retrograde cycles looks like. I also want to talk about the January good dates. If you've got to push some things through, if you have to do some launches and you can't wait till the middle or end of May, there's a period of time that you can work with that I'll talk about. And then also some dates that have some challenges. So I'm calling the month of January 2017. The theme for all signs is the edge of the abyss. We start out the month in the middle of the first of a series of personal planets being retrograde. Personal planets are the ones that are closest to us. So really the ones that are relevant here are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Whenever one of those planets appears as if it's going backwards in the sky, of course they never really do go backwards in their orbit, but from our position on the Earth, if you were watching it in the sky, it would look like it was going backwards. That period of time, called a retrograde, lends itself into going backwards and going in deep. Some people have made the mistake of thinking you can't do anything during a retrograde cycle. That is totally not true, and I'm going to go into more details about that. But basically this energy of being on the edge of the abyss in this Mercury retrograde that is welcoming us as we start this new year. Then on January 8th, Mercury goes direct, and then at the end of January, the shadow period for Venus retrograde starts. Venus rules love and beauty and money. So the energies ruling, or the energies regarding those topics all tend to go backwards. But there's also a shadow period before the actual retrograde. So even though Venus is not retrograde until March 4th, and that's through April 15th, at the end of January, it's already warming up. You know, it's kind of like when you're on your way somewhere, maybe you're at a place not in the forest, okay, and you're driving and there are no trees around, then all of a sudden you start seeing a couple of trees here and there, and you know that when you go deeper, you're going to be covered with trees on both sides of the road, you know, but it's kind of like the trees are starting to show up, and you're getting that vibe of going into the woods. And that's what the retrograde is like, and that's what the shadow periods are like. So just as Mercury starts to be clear of its shadow period, Venus's shadow period starts. And then we get into full-on Venus retrograde. And then just as Venus goes direct in the middle of April, we start the shadow period for the next Mercury retrograde. And then it's not till May 19th that Venus is completely clear of its retrograde cycle. And it's not till May 21st that Mercury is completely clear of its retrograde cycle. So you can see why I call this time in January the edge of the abyss, and why, if you've listened to my horoscopes for a while, you can see why I was pushing you to push as many things forward into the world in the launch period, November through like December 3rd or so, because these energies want to go back and they want to go in. An analogy that I've been thinking of that really reminds me of the energy of what we're standing before. As I was stating earlier, it's a huge mistake to think you can't do anything in a retrograde. There is so much to do, there's plenty to do, and there are some things that it's actually good to do those things. You can get some specifics on Mercury retrograde by watching my video for that transit. You can also watch my video for Venus retrograde to get more details about specifics for that transit. I'll give some general retrograde energies here. But it's like if you want to clean out your kitchen, right? Maybe it's not too messy when you get in there, but when you start taking stuff out of the cabinets and spreading all the clean surfaces with the stuff from the cabinets in order to get everything out, throw stuff away, wipe the surfaces inside the cabinets, you create a righteous mess, right? In order to meet the objective, which is to have a truly clean kitchen that feels really good, getting rid of stagnant energy, clearing out things you don't need, making room for new. So although we're not starting this new year in an energy with a lot of newness coming in, we definitely have a major opportunity to go in deep and clear those things out. So I know for myself, I'm going to be very busy during these retrograde cycles, and I'm going to take everything in my house and all of my things out and clear them out, and by the time the energies go direct, I won't have complained because I didn't have any shortage of things to do during this retrograde cycle. It's just the new things, the launches. If there's something you've been doing all along, like for instance, I teach Creating Successful Online Business course, and I teach an Astrology Apprenticeship program. I've been teaching these for a while. So you'll see my launches come out in the midst of these retrograde energies, but they're not new, and they're short-term programs. That's another thing to know about these new, the warnings to not do new things during the retrogrades. That's really a warning to not do long-term things. If you want to try something on or do a trial period or do something for a short amount of time that's not intended to have longevity, it's perfect. It's fine. You can play, you can experiment, etc. And it's a wonderful time to do that. You can have different experiences, and it's like a no commitment type of thing. If you go in thinking I'm going to be doing this for a certain number of years and it's going to be exactly how we're talking about right now, it's just not going to be that way. It's going to change and evolve, and that's the nature of the retrogrades. So, just keep that keynote of being on the edge of the abyss, keeping the understandings that things might have to get a little messier in your life before they can become clearer, but that this is really what's needed. It's really what's needed to get you closer to the things that you want to do, the experiences that you want to have. So, another good point about this retrograde cycle is to try to get your taxes done early. If you can submit them, like at the end of, I know you have to wait for some tax documents at the end of January, but as soon into February as possible, have all your ducks in a row, it's going to be much easier for you because April 15th is the tax day that everything is due, but that's the end of Venus retrograde, and money things are going to be, affected by this. So you might want to try to get that done. Something else really great about retrogrades is that when you are taking everything out to look at it again, you often find a lot of gems, things that you totally forgot about. If you're a writer, maybe if you're clearing out old files, you find some things that could be usable for a current project, or that you feel inspired to go back and start getting into again. This happens all the time. Either something that you find or something comes back to you through someone else mentioning it, or something floats in your field in some way from the past, then you get back on it and you bring it to a different level. It's like something coming back from the past that you work on. But you often will find a lot of gems, so contacting people from the past, going through things from the past, clearing out stuff is one of the best things you can do during retrogrades. And then you'll be in a much better position for launching when the stars are great again, which is like May 21st is really, there might be a couple of dates before then that could work, but that's the day that the Venus retrograde, the Mercury retrograde is clear. So you've got from May 21st through July 25th, free of personal planet retrogrades. And as we get closer to those days, I'll give you, challenging dates and good dates around in that time period. But I just want to give you an overview for the year so you have a snapshot of what we're looking at. Then we have another retrograde cycle between July 26th and October 6th, and then we're clear again from October 7th through November 5th. So essentially you've got 2 good launching periods this year. And then you might want to take advantage of that and line things up that way. So let's see, I want to give you the good dates. I say good dates. These are dates that have sweet aspects that are occurring. And note that some of the dates I give you that could carry sweetness are also some of the same dates that could bring challenges or drama. Because on some days we have certain really good aspects and certain challenging aspects at the same time. I'm going to give you the dates, but note that sometimes we feel the energy of a transit before or after the day it actually occurs. So sometimes the exact date isn't as relevant as the time period. I'm not going to list all of why these dates carry sweetness or challenges. You can see more details about that when you sign up for my free email newsletter, which is on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. I do a write-up for the month before that gives the theme of the month, themes, keynotes, sweet days, challenging days, as well as the actual aspects that make those sweet or challenging, with a little bit of explanation as to why and what's happening there. So you can get that for free on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Okay, so you might find sweetness on or around January 3rd, January 6th and 7th, January 20th, 23rd, 28th, and 29th. But a big star around January 29th January 28th, because this is the Chinese New Year and the new moon in Aquarius. So if you have to push something through that you could not push through in my suggested time frame that ran until December 3rd, then this might be a date that could work for you, because it's dancing right between some challenging aspects, but it has a lot of good energy for forward momentum. So if you have to push something through or do a follow-up for something that you had already started, that could be a date that you could slip in. Really, the end of January and the beginning of February, if you have anything that you're going to have to push through that you didn't do in the window through the beginning of December, that's going to be your best time, because you're only going to get deeper into the Venus retrograde as you get deeper into February. So it's going to be pretty retrograde-y until May after that. But it will still have effects because it's right in the middle of all this, but it's your best bet if you have to do something. So the dates to have extra care or where there might be challenges or drama are January 5th through 12th, the 19th, the 27th through the 29th, and the 31st. Okay, so definitely check out my blogs, my new moon, making powerful wishes for each of the new moons on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can also check out my courses, my coach certification course, my Creating Successful Online Business course, and my Astrology Apprenticeship Program. My Astrology Apprenticeship Program and my Creating Successful Online Business courses will be re-enrolling. They have been closed for enrollment. They will be re-enrolling in January. So you can check that out and maybe you'll want to join me.
to do these professional certification courses. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will see you next month. Bye.